Hello, welcome to another Tweedy Outdoors video. I'm on Exmoor. I'm here in Dulverton where I'm going to start my walk. I'm hoping to walk across from this southern edge of Exmoor all the way to the north and end at Porlock tomorrow. Probably going to try and do a wild camp somewhere in the middle. It's about 11 hours of walking, something like that. Bit of an ambitious project possibly, but I've been wanting to come to Exmoor for a long time. It has little remnants of prehistory here. There are a couple of stone circles I'm going to include along the route. Of course, as always, I'll do a little bit of outdoor cooking. Going to make something like an Exmoor stew, a Somerset stew. It's got cider in it anyway. It's a lovely spring day, so hopefully it's going to be a very pleasant walk. It's going to be a hard slog for me. A little bit of a difficult place logistically to get to Exmoor in terms of public transport. There are no train stations in Exmoor at all. Wow, look at the wild garlic. Partly the way I planned my route was just around where there were actually buses available. You can get a bus from Taunton station to Dulverton here, the number 25 bus. It's a great bus journey actually. It's incredibly slow to begin with, and then later on in the journey you appreciate why it's so slow, because there's so many overhanging branches that if the bus went any faster it would probably smash the windows. Beautiful countryside, really enjoyed that, and that brought me to Dulverton, where I've just had a disappointing ploughman's. I blame myself at the bridge in there. I don't know why I do it. Whenever it's north of £10 and in a pub that has been modernised on the interior, you know you're going to have a bad time. But I did it anyway. Oh well, the beer was nice though. I had a pint of Exmoor ale, which was a nice welcome to Exmoor. So I'm going to shut up. This intro is probably already far too long. The wild garlic is even flowering here. I believe the flowers are also edible. I think possibly better when they haven't yet fully unfurled like this one, but I'm going to wait until I find some wild garlic that is not right by the side of this major track here, because you never know, the dogs may have weed on it. I think I have this relatively easy path for the first section of the walk up to perhaps Tarr steps, and I think I'm following this is actually the valley of the River Exe here. If the river here is not the Exe, it's almost certainly a tributary thereof. Of course, that's where Exmoor takes its name from. Surprisingly warm day. I'm afraid I may have to remove my tweed jacket imminently. At least I got to keep that on for the intro. The path gets a bit closer to the river here so we can get a better look at it, whatever it is. I think it's the River Exe. As I say, if not the River Exe, probably a tributary thereof. Did I possibly naively say back there I thought this path for the first bit was going to be nice and flat, but I do seem to be now ascending up above the river, and correspondingly have been rewarded with this nice view of what presumably at some point in the future will become an oxbow lake. This is Marsh Bridge here, nice little bit of ironwork. Could that be late Victorian? It's got that sort of style to it, hasn't it? And I am back to the river, although I'm not supposed to be crossing it here. I'm supposed to be staying on this side and following another track. I think these tree ferns can be a sort of temperate rainforest indicator, can't they? There definitely are some patches of woodland on Exmoor that I'm hoping to see on this extended walk that are classified as temperate rainforest. I think they're possibly a bit closer to the sea, maybe. Perhaps this is a better example of the aforementioned tree ferns. The rapids there, lovely stretch of the river, whatever it's called. Still think it's the Exe, possibly. I didn't record any video of the next bit because I thought it would be a bit intrusive, but my audio recorder was still on, and here's a reconstruction. I feel underdressed for a change now. How best should I crack on. Just and then, don't be afraid to shout at them. Okay. Hey, there's a walker on the way. A walker on the way, Kate. Sorry, my horse is at the garage. I forgot it today, sorry. That was a wonderfully surreal moment. I don't know if you can see them going off into the distance, just be passed by people wearing tweed. What a delight to see other people out in public wearing tweed, not being the odd one out for a change. It's definitely all gone a bit Jilly Cooper.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Very smart walking.
Oh, thank you. No problem, no. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Other than two ladies, you'll be
Okay, thank you. Thank you. What a strange walk it's turning out to be. I don't know if you can get a glimpse of the riders over there. Can you hear the horn? What a surreal walk this is turning into. I was getting a bit disoriented back there. Partly the riders, they kept stopping to sort of look at something, and then they would all ride past. So I would have to get off the path and let them past. And then eventually there was a place where I think I should have done a turning, but they were all there, a huge crowd, and it was just sort of, it was very, very disorienting trying to get past all those horses. There we go, Tarr steps 2 3/4. I'm making extremely slow progress. Heading up onto a ridge now. I think this might even be called Hawkridge Ridge. Just Hawkridge would do, wouldn't it? I had to stop to put on a hat, so I look even more like the horsey crew now. This is in fact the first item of tweed I ever owned. I think I had it getting over 20 years ago now. This was the gateway drug to full-on tweed wearing. What I will say for the horse riders, impeccably polite. I've never had so many thank yous and compliments on my attire. Having become accustomed to people looking in surprise and almost dismay sometimes when they see a gentleman in a tweed suit out walking, shooting into the sun here, just like the effect, that silhouette of that tree, the sun behind it. I wasn't making it up back there, you know. It really is called Hawkridge Ridge. It's the ridge that leads to a place called Hawkridge, which is presumably called Hawkridge because it's on a ridge and it has something to do with hawks. And they, to me, look like possible boundary stones or something. There aren't a lot of stones along the side of this path. Where is allotment fox when you need him? You probably have something meaningful to say about those. I thought it was probably prudent to do a quick status check. I looked at my phone for how many miles I have walked so far, how long I've been walking, and it is now about 2 hours since I left Dulverton, and in that space of time I've covered just 4.6 miles. Obviously it hasn't just been straightforward walking on the flat, there have been some ups and downs, but I think there has been a lot of stopping and starting with negotiating around all the horses. So it's not particularly great progress, is it? I was thinking this was going to be the easy, quick bit. I just bashed this out. Nice little shady lane here, almost a sort of Holloway feel to it. What do you think? Or perhaps they're just field boundaries either side. Nice to have a bit of shade. It was getting surprisingly warm back there, and I don't know if this cap really does much to stave off the sunstroke and the sunburn and all that. Nice to be on the flat. Nice to not have any horses to negotiate my way around for a bit. Polite and charming and well dressed though their riders were. Nice little gap in the bank at the side of the track there. Hello sheep, hello ladies, good afternoon. Hawkridge Ridge has delivered me to Hawkridge. Has a pretty church, alas no pub. The most direct route from here to Tarr Steps is just to follow that road. It's quite a long stretch of road, and even though it's a bit indirect, I probably ought to follow the actual bridleway here. I think I'm just going to walk down the road. It's hardly going to be a busy thoroughfare, is it? Between Hawkridge and Tarr Steps, it doesn't exactly look like a particularly busy road, so I'll just follow this pleasant country lane for a bit. Pleasant, but a bit steep by the looks of things. 20% incline. It's quite hard to convey how steep a road is on video. Because of course I could just be tilting the camera down for all you know. Hopefully that's just about making sense. Back down to the river again now, and this is very pleasant, this country lane. Just had 2 cars pass, 3. Going quite slowly so far. I think this probably was the better choice. I'm quite road averse, particularly given my recent trip to the Bell at Aldworth. But not all roads are equal. I find these things somehow weirdly nostalgic of my childhood passing place. Always somebody has scribbled out a bit of the letter A. It's a classic. Lovely clear riverbed here. I doubt that's going to come across. Can you see the stones in the riverbed there? This is a very nice country lane. Here we are then, Tarr Steps. A minute ago I was in a very quiet, peaceful country lane, and now there's a pub and there's people all of a sudden. I've got a feeling the pub is a little bit gentrified, maybe not my sort of thing, but any port in a storm and all that. Cheers from the Tarr Farm Inn. As the name suggests, I think it is a converted farm, presumably. Quite nice inside. There is the inevitable bit of farrow and ball paint, but I'm having a pint of their eponymous ale. I think it's brewed for them by St Austell's. It's on a little bit of a hill on the side of the valley here, so you get a nice view down to the steps. I think they do cream teas and things as well, but that is a very welcome pint. Slightly difficult to drag myself away from the pub, despite the farrow and ball paint. Wondering if I've bitten off a bit more than I could chew with this walk. Two of the horse riders, no longer riding horses, stopped me there and we had a quick chat, so got a bit distracted. Where was I? I think I've done 10.5 of 36.5 kilometres. That's 6.5 miles out of, I'll put it on the screen, can't bother to do the mental arithmetic, of quite a lot more miles. I was hoping to get beyond Withypool today. I'm going to go over towards these stone circles at Withypool now. Hopefully get there at least before it gets dark. I was hoping to get beyond Withypool onto the open moor to find a camp spot, but I don't know, it may have to be a bit more improvisation, I think, because only 2.5 hours left of light. Nice old trek, rising up the hill from Tarr steps though. I'm recognising that I lost a lot of height coming down that steep hill after Hawkridge, and I'm probably going to have to make that all back up again now, aren't I? Should we do a gate traversal sequence? I know I should probably have the camera over there and then move it and everything. It's hardly a Mr. WC21 masterpiece, is it? But hopefully you get the basic sense of a gate being traversed there. Look at these two poking their heads through the gate over there. Evening, ladies. Yes, just passing through. Don't worry about me. Aren't you supposed to be scared of humans? This isn't normal sheep behaviour. What do you want from me? I have nothing for you. You have everything you need right in front of you. Grass as far as the eye can see. Look at that. They've all followed my suggestion. They're eating the grass. Perhaps it's partly just that I've escaped that valley, whatever river it was I was following after leaving Tarr steps back there. But I am starting to get a bit more of a sense of moorland. It still feels quite farmed, doesn't it? You can see the patchwork quilt of field boundaries. Hopefully at least the Withypool stone circle, I think that's on a fairly unreconstructed downland type hill. What do they call it? It's open access land anyway, so an unimproved downland, is that the word? Quite a piratey looking gate opening mechanism there, sort of captain hook. No, is it actually connected to anything? I don't know. It looks like one of those battles between Japanese giant mechanised robots has taken place here, and a bit has fallen off one of them. Another slight sense of a holloway here. I think the track today goes up on the bank here, but there is a ditch of sorts down there. And some of these beech trees, possibly a mixture of beech and birch. Lovely bit of gorse here. It's looking particularly vibrant, isn't it? Look at that colour. Very pretty stream. I've come to the end of that track. Been on for a while now, joining a road. Partly in shade, but isn't that nice, that bank along the roadside there with a mixture of primroses, buttercups. I think that gate there looks like a shift from what has been more like farmland to what will hopefully be more like open moorland. Similar gates on Dartmoor, I think it's to stop the ponies and other livestock getting out. And I think I'm now onto Withypool Hill, somewhere on which is Withypool Stone Circle. I suppose this is a bit of a diversion. It would have been more direct to just walk straight to Withypool from Tarr steps, but there are only 2 stone circles on Exmoor. Where am I? Exmoor. There are only 2 stone circles on Exmoor. Neither of them are incredibly visually impressive. Don't get your hopes up, but I did want to see them while I was here. So hopefully in the not too distant future, certainly not for you, you're just watching the video, you don't have to walk up this hill with a heavy backpack, but hopefully in the not too distant future we'll be seeing whatever is to see of Withypool Stone Circle. This was probably a terrible idea, wasn't it, making this detour? It seems to be taking a very long time to get there, and to make matters worse, the grass is just getting longer, so I've had a paranoid reaction about possibly getting ticks. I put on some gaiters and sprayed myself with, what's it called, Smidge, the last of that can. Am I looking a bit Norman Wisdom again? I think I'm pretty close now. We're going to have to go through this long grass. It's all looking very parched, isn't it? This is April. This is the 5th of April, 6th of April, early April. It's looking all this as dried out as this. It's a bit worrying, isn't it? We've had a brief run of dry weather. Well, it hasn't been like that for weeks and weeks. It's been like that for perhaps 2 weeks at most. At least in London. I don't know what it's been like down here. Somewhere around here is, I believe, Withypool Stone Circle. It's just a matter now of actually finding it. Drum roll. I think I have found it. Look at that. That is not even knee height, and yet that is beautiful. I love that. Almost mountain-like, a miniature mountain. It's got a sort of bonsai tree, but for megaliths. Can you call this a megalith? It's not a microlith, is it? That means flints and things. I don't know what the word would be. A medilith, a medium-sized stone. And there are more. And there's even a sort of path beaten around the edge of it so you can get a clearer idea of the shape. Isn't that delightful? There are only 2 stone circles on Exmoor, here at Withypool, and there is one near Porlock. Both of them were rediscovered in relatively recent history. This one has been known about for a bit longer. I think it's something like 1898 it was rediscovered. The one over at Porlock not until the 1920s. There have been some investigations, and it's changed even in that space of time since it was rediscovered. I think there were in the 30s the number of stones originally. Today, much fewer than that visible or still in place. Possibly, it's so hard to tell because they're so small, additional stones may have been added at some point in time. Probably Bronze Age, could be early Bronze Age, not so likely Neolithic in this case. And it is cute, isn't it? It's tiny. I think part of the theory here is that unlike Dartmoor, there aren't big slabs of granite or other rock that tends to form large individual megaliths lying around on Exmoor. So they've just sort of made do with what they could find. There are more stones further along, and assuming, as I said, this path, which could even just be a sheep track, assuming that does mark the boundary. Let's follow this around. There were 2 where I first arrived that were of a decent size comparatively for this rather diminutive stone circle. I've got something a little bit bigger over here as well. And that's not bad. It's partly just it's got sort of tussocks and things growing up around it, so it's a little bit buried. And there's a couple of tiny ones here, and that bit with the sort of quartz and stuff on looks kind of out of place to me. I wonder if that's been added later. That's another decent one ish. It does seem the bigger stones are to the north side of the circle, further up the hill as well. Why did they choose this location as well? It's not on top of the hill. As far as I can tell, there isn't a spring or anything significant near here, no natural feature that obviously this is somehow relating to. It has a nice view shed. Miss WC21 sometimes uses that, but you'd get a better view shed from the top of the hill, presumably. I think that's my favourite, the first one I saw. It has a satisfying pointiness to it. Probably this is all in silhouette, isn't it? Sorry. Should I try filming it from the other angle? Maybe that's better. But instead you have my shadow in shot. Long shadows, reminding me I ought to be getting on with my walk rather than looking at tiny stone circles for gnomes. A gnome circle. I like that. It has a, as I said, a Zen garden sort of feel to it with the moss growing on and everything. And Zen gardens often try and recreate natural features like mountains and islands, but in miniature, and perhaps that's what this was. Perhaps this was a map of Exmoor, for all we know, a figurative map of Exmoor, in the same way the tube map is a figurative rather than literal map of the positions of all the stations. I feel really invigorated by that. I was definitely flagging back there. The walk up Withypool hill was a bit of a trudge, but partly just taking that heavy backpack off. The planning today really hasn't been great in terms of a realistic estimate of how long it would take to get to a decent place to camp. If push comes to shove, I could probably find a spot somewhere here on Withypool Hill, but I really wanted to have covered a bit more distance. I wanted to get past Withypool and out onto the open moor proper. This is, I suppose, a little peninsula of the open moor. But let's at least go and look at the top of the hill. I think this is the top of Withypool Hill. It's a little bit windy up here. I've put that dead cat thing on, so hopefully you can hear me. There is a Tumulus, Mr. Tumulus the Ford from the Chronicles of Narnia. Tumulus, I'm never sure how to pronounce that. Barrow, marked on the Ordnance Survey map on top of the hill here, and possibly, if that's also Bronze Age, that may have had some relation to the stone circle down there. It really isn't very far between the two. You definitely see barrows being added to henges at a later date. Stonehenge, famous example of that. And it could even be the other way round. Long barrows were often a precursor to other Neolithic sites. You could say that of Avebury to a certain extent. There's a bit more to it than I expected, actually. If this whole set of lumps and bumps here are part of that tumulus as marked on the map. The cairn there is obviously a modern addition. But there's quite a lot of structure to this. Is that possibly an outer ditch over there? And that's a depression inside. There's a fair amount going on there. It's an interesting barrow. Getting on top of the hill here, I definitely felt like there was a slight change in the air, and once again Exmoor was starting to feel a little bit wilder. Although still between here and the absolute wildest bits of the moor, you can see more patchwork quilt of farmers' fields. I've been dithering for a bit about what to do about my sleeping arrangements. It's a difficult decision because it's 7 p.m. now. Sunset is almost 8 o'clock now, particularly this part of the world where we're somewhat further west. But if I walked down into Withypool from here, the top of the hill, that would consume most of that time. And then there isn't really any more open access land beyond there that's sort of better suited than this. So I really wanted to have made a bit more progress by this point, but I think I'm just going to have to be pragmatic and probably bed down here for the night. I am also hungry, so, you know, can cook my dinner here. It is a nice spot. I've got a nice view of the sunset. I don't think I'm going to be bothering anyone. I'm quite a long way from any habitation or any roads or anything like that. So I want to call this Somerset stew, but I did a quick bit of Googling earlier, and I think there actually are some dishes called that. I couldn't find an authoritative reference for what exactly that comprises of. So the only thing really Somerset-y about this is it's going to have some cider in it. And this is actually a Somerset cider. I'm kicking myself slightly. I went to the Morrisons briefly in Taunton because I had a bit of time to wait for the bus. I wasn't sure what the shops in Dulverton would be like. And I picked this up, which is a Somerset cider. It's Orchard Pig. I think that's an okay producer. But I think this is something you probably could find in London, for example. When I got to Dulverton, there were some nice shops there, a deli and stuff, and there was actually an Exmoor cider. That would have been perfect, but I thought it would be absurd to buy a second bottle of cider. I've already lugged this 500 millilitres in a glass bottle for 4 hours or however long it's been. So that's it, that's your lot. You're getting Somerset cider, not Exmoor cider. Other than that, it's basically it's like an Irish stew but made with cider. I'm going to try and do everything in the billy can. I was trying to be a little bit ultralight, well, not quite ultralight today, but because I have a 2-night stay, I'm planning to stay in a pub tomorrow night in Porlock. I actually need, you know, more spare clothes and stuff like a civilized human being. So my bag is a bit inadequate for anything other than a 1-night stay, particularly as I've got my winter sleeping bag in there, which is pretty bulky. So food has had to be compromised correspondingly. So I have some potatoes and carrots in the billy can. I bought an onion for the princely sum of 8 pence from the Morrisons in Taunton, and I've got sort of butter and garlic and stuff like that. I was hoping to get some wild garlic, and again, I'm kicking myself about that because it was there by the side of the road, and I thought, I don't know, and it's right by the side of the track, right by the side of the road. It's not really ideal because, you know, car emissions going past if it's a road, and dog emissions going past if it's on a track where people walk their dogs. I just never actually found a patch which was not directly by the side of the path. Right, should we start by chopping an onion? Onion cam, using the Opinel number 6 again. This has been pretty good so far. I'll have some garlic here as well, we can do that next. Oh, terrible footage. Terrible entertainment. As always, all of the bits are going home with me, hashtag leave no trace, etc. Now, the corner of my eye while I'm doing this, I can keep an eye on the sunset. I'm taking all these bits home, hashtag leave no trace. Seem to be including some local herbs. Don't want that. Would have liked some wild garlic. Have I lost the bit where I was explaining how I didn't manage to find any wild garlic? I wanted to use some wild garlic in this, it didn't happen, sorry. Probably more onion than I really need for a diminutive stew such as this is going to be. In fact, I probably have too many ingredients to even fit in the billy can, but by only bringing the billy can, I convinced myself I was saving weight and pack space. Okay, you get the idea. I've chopped some onion. I'm going to put an infeasibly large knob of butter in there, and then to give myself space on the chopping board, all of that onion can just go in there now, and in a moment I will set up the gas stove. This is happening off screen, but do you really need to see me putting some onion in a billy can? Do you need to see any of this? do I need to be here? I could be at home right now with the prospect of a night's sleep in a proper bed and not having to walk another 15 miles or something obscene tomorrow. Bit of sunset in shot there. Well, pre-sunset. I always like the bit where the flame springs to life. I don't know if you do too, but there we go. Those onions can be sautéing away while I'm doing the rest of the chopping. Chop up some garlic. Alas, not wild garlic. Could just go in. Do I really need 3 cloves of garlic? Good to have the flavour, but can't be bothered to do all that chopping. Might as well. Save weight tomorrow. Eating the garlic. That'll make all the difference, won't it? You get the idea. Chop some garlic. That's pretty much all I had the knife with me for. So we see how the billy can's doing. There we go, some nicely sautéing onions. Are they sautéing or are they being deep fried in butter there? No sense hanging around, might as well put in the potatoes. I took the liberty of just peeling them at home, chopping them and everything, partly because it saves weight as well. What's the point in carrying the skins? So I don't know if I'm actually going to fit all of that in. Sorry about the plastic bag, now that looks really unsightly. Probably not all going to go in, is it? It will likely mush down. Maybe that's too much. How absurd. I should have just brought a bigger pan, shouldn't I? I'm going to have to take some back out. I think this is, I've got more stuff to put in there. It's just not going to work. Some form of protein, which is very convenient for camping. Soya chunks. This could be dehydrated meat. I don't know. Whatever you would prefer that to be. You need to see me pouring that in. Not sure I can fit all of that in either. Now then, Before that all starts burning on the bottom, the final touch is some of this cider, and that is going to be the main body of the sauce. I will flavour it with some other stuff later. It's fizzy as well, which will make things interesting. My stew has a head on it. I really should have just brought a bigger pan, shouldn't I? This is ridiculous, but this is happening. Okay, we all need to deal with it. Why don't I give this a swig? Yeah, so that's pleasant. As it says on the back, sort of bittersweet. Bottled cider always seems to end up fizzy, whether they want it to or not. I think they put a little bit of CO2 in to remove the ullage, or there's some practical reason why it always ends up slightly fizzy, even if it's not really intentional. But the flavour's good. I'll keep some of that in case the stew needs topping up at some point. Take a look at the sunset while that's cooking. That is the current state of the sun setting over there. A bit of footage of my Somerset stew, whatever we're calling this, bubbling away with the sunset, the Somerset and the sunset. A sunset in Somerset and a stew. Actually got a little bit chilly all of a sudden. I've got the wind on the back of my neck, so I've used this scarf so I'm not obscuring the mic as well to try and block some of that off. It's a bit exposed, I think, on top of this hill here, but I suppose it would be worse if I'd gone further on to the more proper higher up. That would be really quite cold. I think it's forecast to go down to 4 degrees or something tonight. I do actually have my stupid tent that no one likes with me, so that will hopefully keep me warm. I have my winter sleeping bag and all that stuff. Well, that's frantically bubbling away and probably burning on the bottom. I've brought the tweedy wine bag that my daughter made again, and of course therein is some Gevrey Chambertin. This is a producer called Louis Boyau, and it's a 2017 vintage, one I really enjoyed. 2 bottles on the go. Well, I'm saving the cider. I did explain, didn't I? I'm saving the cider for topping up the curry. Not curry, what am I talking about? What am I talking about? The stew. A bit darker than I remember it, sort of that sign of aging. It's going nicely fragrant and still basically cherry, but there's a little bit of something floral starting to emerge there. Nice. Acidic and concentrated and everything on the palate. Good. Potatoes are just an impractical thing to cook in a camping type scenario. But somehow those onions have gone a bit burnt on the bottom. It's frustrating. I've got all this liquid in there. But the trouble is, with the billy cam being sort of tall and slender, it's difficult to get right down to the bottom to kind of scrape the bits off. So unfortunately, I think that some bits probably are getting caught and burning on the bottom. While I've been lamenting my burnt onions, the sun has disappeared behind that hill over there. I mean, it probably is close to the official moment of sunset. I think it's, well, yeah, 7:55. I think that's what it was billed for, at least at Porlock when I checked. I decided to pause cooking for a bit and set up my tent while there's at least a little bit of daylight. I don't think anyone's going to come and walk their dog now at this time. The sun has set. It's going to get dark pretty soon, so I think this is a reasonable time to be setting up a tent, in my opinion. You know, in theory, this is supposed to take 2 minutes setting up this. It's supposed to be possible to set it up in 2 minutes. I don't think I've ever managed it in that space of time. Especially not when it's a bit windy like this. Getting cold now as well. So I'll appreciate having something to retreat into from time to time, somewhere necessary. Terrible footage. That says more like 8 minutes. That is home for the night. Definitely took much more than 2 minutes to set up. but it will do. I'm going to get back to my dinner now and see how that's getting on. Hopefully the time sat there in the pot might have done something towards cooking those potatoes. Let's see, are these potatoes anything like done? You know what, I think they actually are. The flapping's annoying, isn't it? Sorry. I might give this a little bit more cooking because I think I did have 1 or 2 more ingredients I haven't used yet. I wanted to thicken the sauce a bit. This bit is likely to be controversial. It's only me that has to eat it. Gravy granules. Probably the very few of you who still thought any of this might be a good idea are now likely turning away in disgust. But it will thicken the sauce, and nothing in there so far has any salt in it, so it will season it and provide a bit of umami. I'll just give it a sort of sprinkling and see how I get on. I don't think it needs a huge amount. Probably add a bit of sweetness even. Right now it's going to likely taste a bit tart, I imagine. All that cider, no other liquid. You could do this in a slightly more chefy way with flour and salt and so on, but like I say, no one else has to eat this. It's just me. And I like gravy. So there. Losing the light. Well, I managed to get my cooking done without needing any artificial lighting, so that's a good thing. Let's taste this. It's pretty nice. It tastes a lot fancier than it looks. And you can't see it anyway because it's dark. Acidity from the cider, the appley flavour, but then it does have a decent amount of umami and seasoning and everything else from the gravy granules. Potatoes are nicely cooked now. Would have been nice to avoid the onions caramelising quite as intensely as they did, but I think in the end, because it's been deglazed so thoroughly, it doesn't taste particularly burnt. It's alright, it will do me. It's warm and everything's cooked properly. I think I might just turn the camera off and sit and eat that. Having a sort of strobe effect. Oh well. I've actually climbed inside the tent, as you can see. It's only just before 9:30, but I feel surprisingly tired. I suppose I didn't get a huge amount of sleep last night because I was up early to get all the way here, and hasn't gone really as I was hoping today, but do have to be flexible with these things, I suppose, and in the unlikely event that I actually manage to get a good night's sleep, then I suppose I do have plenty of time to do a walk tomorrow. I might try and do a tiny bit of night photography, but I'm a little bit more worried about my battery situation, really, so that might be good night for now then. I'll if I do get any night photography or anything, I'll add that in, but otherwise see you in the morning. Good morning. It is 6:10, something like that. A while before sunrise, 20 minutes or so I think till sunrise. It was a windy night for most of it, so but I did manage to get a reasonable amount of sleep, I think, by my standards. And now, well, just now, there was a sort of mist this morning, a morning mist that I woke up to, so everything is now a bit damp. That was home for the night. As always, not a brilliant pitch, but it will do. And that's the sunrise starting to happen over there. The mist has cleared happily, and I guess I've got to start getting packed away. Surprisingly chilly now. Well, look at that, I can see the sun is starting to rise over there beyond the cairn. I'm just about packed away. As always, I'm sort of missing the best of the sunset while I'm busy packing up wet camping tat. It does seem to be the way of things. Hashtag leave no trace. You wouldn't know I've been here, and I don't know if you can see that over there. The sun has now risen. 6:48. I think the moment of sunset was predicted for 10 minutes ago or something. As always, there's a hill in the way, so it took a while before it was very visible. Sorry, we've missed most of that because I've just been busy packing up a cold wet tat. It was quite nice, and perhaps I could fill in with a photo or two I took now and again while I was packing up. I don't know if that counts. A little bit cloudy here and there. The clouds are very fast moving. There once again is the sun looking all mysterious. Mysterious? I don't know, it looks like the sun really, just behind some clouds. Behind that cairn over there. From here I'm going to head to Withypool, which probably means a big descent. I'll then have to re-ascend later. Then on from there to Exford, and then onto the wider open moor. I think that must be the village of Withypool down there. Would of course love a fry up, as I often do after a wild camp, but I doubt very much in this part of the world a small village like Withypool is going to have a greasy spoon. And even in the extremely unlikely event it did have anything like that, it's not going to be open at 7 AM on a Sunday, is it? Perhaps some other opportunity will present itself for dining twixt hither and Porlock. The early morning sun shining on the gorse, particularly nice coloured gorse. I think I said that yesterday somewhere or other, didn't I? Really bright, vivid yellow here on Exmoor. I'm actually finding this descent into Withypool slightly challenging. There's a lot of long grass and very uneven and half frozen mud underfoot. Going to speak quietly here in case the people of Withypool are still asleep, but there are some facilities here. Of course, not yet open at not long after 7 on a Sunday morning. The tea room, very quaint looking, presumably now defunct petrol station. Look at those pumps. And over there, post office, off licence and general stores. And there is the pub, of course, currently closed. There's a lot of Royal Oaks on Exmoor, aren't there? It seems to be far and above the most popular pub name. That always looks skew with on this. I'm leaving Withypool now. Signs back there. Nice little place. Amazing that they had public toilets open at this time of the day. Wonderful. Thank you to the good people of Withypool for providing that. And now I think I'm going to be rejoining the Ex Valley Way. And look, some bluebells. First I've seen on this trip. I think this is it. It says permitted path, and that should take me to Exford. And there once again is the view down to Withypool. And up above there, over on the left hand side, big fat finger time, Withypool Hill, where I spent last night. It's strange that it says permitted path here because it is marked as a long distance route on the OS map. It's got the green diamonds. Not quite sure what's going on there. I'm being smothered in luxury this morning. First the flushing toilets at Withypool, and now I can have a bath. Perhaps not. If anyone lost a pair of sunglasses on the path between Withypool and Exford, this is where they are. Crossing over a road here, the weather seems to be turning ever so slightly. The forecast has been for relentless sunshine. Almost felt like, sorry you probably can't hear me, almost felt like it might rain just now. I'm on Room Hill now, which hopefully is going to be a nice easy bit of walking for some of the rest of the way to Exford. Relatively flat, plateau-esque, and there is a bridleway running along that, so nice easy wide track. I had briefly entertained the idea of trying to push on to here for last night's camp. This is another area of open access land. If I'd had the daylight hours and all the energy to push on past Withypool, I would have been arriving here completely in the dark. It's always difficult to tell from the map. I think you really need to sort of stand in a area to get a feeling for whether or not I would feel comfortable spending a night here. This actually doesn't look like a bad spot to me. It's got some flat ground. It has a little bit of tree cover here and there to help it all be a bit more discreet. There is a road just over there, but can't see the road from here. Might hear the odd noisy car passing by. You could always head a bit further over that way to get a bit further from it. This would have probably been a good space, but I just don't think I think I probably made the right choice staying where I did. this would have just been a little bit of a bridge too far. It doesn't mean I've got much more walking to do today. It seems I had actually strayed off the path over there. I keep doing that. If I take my eyes off my phone for just 10 minutes, I end up going in the wrong direction, which is annoying because I don't really want to be looking at my phone the whole time. I want to be enjoying the scenery. Oh, so I've got to cross this little valley, which is pretty muddy at the bottom. I think the bridle way, whatever it was, the route of the Ex Valley Way is over this side of this little valley. But isn't this cute? Slightly Dartmoor-esque here, I think, this little valley. You know what I'm going to say, don't you? Like and subscribe. What a lovely bit of hanging lichen there. One thing I'd say about the Ex Valley Way, I've walked a fair few miles of it now, and it's not big on signposts. There are footpath signposts locally in that permissive footpath. Am I possibly even still on the permissive footpath? I don't know. All you seem to get are these little blue squares. I think that's possibly a marker for the Ex Valley Way in particular. Blink and you'd miss it. Well, saying that back there about the signposts, it doesn't tell you you're on the Ex Valley Way, but perhaps that's implicit from the blue coloration. And do regular footpaths just get a yellow, is that even in shot? A yellow splodge. Good. Anyway, I think I'm a mile from Exford now, something like that. Feels like it's getting close. There's Exford down there, quite a spread out place, but I was looking at the Ordnance Survey map and it sounds like there is stuff there. Public toilets again, a pub which probably won't be open, but I wonder if there might be something like a cafe or a tea room. I'll get there just after 9 or sometime after 9. The one back in Withypool said it opens at 9, even on Sundays, which is a surprise. So perhaps perhaps I shouldn't be getting my hopes up, but it sounds like there is a chance of a proper breakfast. Nice wooded section on the descent into Exford now. Mossy trees, one of those tree ferns. A little bit of a glimpse of temperate rainforest again. I've made a strategic decision to turn off the audio recorder for a bit, so I hope you can still hear me okay just on the GoPro mic. That's the one thing I didn't really think through. I brought some spare batteries but no way to charge them, and I'm down to the last set of those. I felt like I ought to keep that perhaps for the upper bits of the moor. I think this is finally the River Ex proper. Back there yesterday when I was talking about the river valley I was following, confusingly along which the Ex Valley Way footpath follows, I think that was actually the River Barle, and that joins the River Ex at Exbridge. Now I have the River Ex at Exford. So this is Exford, huge place. I'm overwhelmed by the sprawl of it. Now then, does it have a cafe? I have been fed very well at, what was it called? Exford Bridge Tea Rooms here in Exford. That was fantastic, what a lucky find. And you don't know when coming to these villages, I don't know Exmoor very well, so I don't know when coming to these villages if there's going to be anything there or if it's going to be open. So that was a real treat. I've had a hearty fry up. Sorry, I didn't get any footage of it. Very genial host, who I believe possibly hailed from North America, so it had a sort of slightly surreal American diner feel. And very good coffee as well, surprisingly good espresso. I really enjoyed that. Had 2. And flashing toilets and everything. So life is good. I really think I can do this now. It's 14 kilometres, Ordnance Survey Maps tells me, or is that 10 and a bit miles? 10, possibly 11 miles from here to Porlock. It is only about 10 a.m. I have, I would say, all the time in the world, but I would like to get there by 4 p.m, which is when I can check into my pub room for tonight. 6 hours, I can do that in 4, I think, 4 and a bit. Possibly have a break for a very light lunch, just eat whatever whatever leftovers there were from yesterday. We can find a scenic spot, so I'm going to get on with it. And hopefully another very modest stone circle on the way. Finally, some lambs. Quite a pleasant lane leading out of Exford. I think this might be called Combe Lane. It was metalled back there, but now it's more rustic track. And the temperature is rising. I don't think the jacket is going to be able to stay on for much longer at this rate, and I've got a bit of a climb, quite a lot of climbing to do between here and Porlock. In case anyone wants to see some more lambs. I won't drag it out for too long because the mums do get a bit upset with these weird two-legged creatures hanging around. Not a bad spot to be a sheep. They've got a nice view over there. National Trust signpost over here by the side of the road, which says this is the start of the Dunkery area. Dunkery Beacon is, I think, some way over there. If I were trying to make a more epic traversal of Exmoor, I would have gone over the top of that, because I believe that might be the highest point on Exmoor. But I just want an easy life now, and also that would take me away from the Porlock stone circle. I think to get to that, follow this way. 6.5 miles to Porlock by road. From here it's probably a bit more by footpath because it doesn't go in such a straight line. No, I went the wrong way just now. Slightly disconcertingly, I need to, for a brief stretch, follow this road that actually points back towards Exford, but it does sort of bend around to the right and connects with the path further on. Nice old signpost there showing about the roadworks in the background. SCC, I assume that's Somerset County Council. This is Hillhead Cross, and I will now be turning right and going back in the direction of Porlock. Alderman's Barrow, I like the sound of that. I think I'll be walking past there, hopefully. What a lovely Sunday morning it's turning into. It's actually quite warm already, just gone 11 AM. The sun is definitely out, the sky is blue. The tweed jacket is sadly off. I would rather it be cold, so I can enjoy the heady delight of being fully clad in tweed, but beggars can't be choosers. It said no vehicles on that sign back there, didn't it? But this is actually a metalled road. I don't know if this is just for farm vehicle use or something, but it's a proper sort of tarmac metal road. It's making for nice easy walking, and I think this will take me to Alderman's Barrow. That's on my route. So there's a couple of antiquities to see even before we get to the probably quite underwhelming Porlock stone circle. Might be even more subtle than the one at Withypool. Entering a bit of open access land now. This is called Almsworthy Common. Possibly the most direct route, goes in a straight line across this over the top of a hill, but I think I'm just going to give myself an easy life, stick to the footpath down at the bottom, less up and down, and hopefully the other end of that we'll get to Alderman's Barrow. Probably a terrible bit of camera work there with that gate traversal sequence. Sorry I've had to put up my collar. Looks very uncouth, doesn't it? But I can feel the sun burning the back of my neck. So this is Almsworthy Common. It's a bit barren, is that the word? Looking very parched again, isn't it? Is this called unimproved moorland? Possibly I said downland, which of course it isn't. Yesterday, it's not downs, no chalk involved. Unimproved moorland, and therefore designated as open access land. Well, there isn't really much that can be done with that, is there? I would guess that's not really suitable for growing any kind of crops. Not even seeing a lot of livestock grazing on it, although I suppose sorry, terrible camera work. Not even seeing a lot of livestock grazing on it, although I suppose the ponies probably have a go here and there. Still haven't seen any of those Exmoor ponies. I was warned by Awat, hello Awat, in a comment in the post I made where I was announcing that I was heading to Exmoor. What said was it his lingering memory of Exmoor is flesh-eating ponies, which didn't sound great. But I haven't seen any so far. Possibly one off in the distance at one point. I've seen lots of evidence that they are here. There's hoof prints everywhere. I assume that's the ponies rather than people horse riding. But I haven't actually been in proximity to any yet, and hearing that account from May Watt, I can't say I particularly miss it. There was a warning back there that this is an electric fence. Can you hear the buzzing there? A bit scary. I won't be touching that to find out. I'm at the other side of Armsworthy Common now. There it is, part of the Holnicott Estate National Trust. And I think just a short section along the road now should bring us to Alderman's Barrow. I believe it's here, Alderman's Barrow. It is right by the side of the road. And if I recall correctly, that star symbol on the post there is a World War II era ancient monument marker. I'm not quite sure what the rationale was for marking them at that point. We can take a quick look. Alderman's Barrow. It is collapsed in the middle, big depression there. Presumably it's been robbed at some point, excavated. It's a fair old size thing. There are a lot of named barrows on Exmoor, I noticed on the OS map. There's Alderman's Barrow here. Earlier I saw a Hearn's Barrow, was it called? Alderman sounds like a Old English, therefore Anglo-Saxon word to me. I'd always assumed that Exmoor was one of those places that would have hung on to Welsh-speaking people well into the period of history that we're apparently not allowed to call the Dark Ages, the early medieval period. I wonder if, has Allotment Fox been to Exmoor? I wonder if there's some interest for him here, particularly being by the side of the road here, which may have ran over an old track. This quite possibly could have been somewhere that was even mentioned in the Saxon charters. I didn't do my homework, but who knows? But I'm guessing the actual structure is Bronze Age. I have a section of open moorland to negotiate now, which doesn't have a public footpath as such. It's open access land, but there was a track of sorts marked on the OS map. Not very evident from here, but roughly I need to go in that direction, I think. There is a stone setting. Not sure how exciting that's going to be to see, but I'd like to see that. It's marked as an antiquity on the OS map. This looks like a track, doesn't it? And it's going roughly the right direction. Always slightly more difficult walking open moorland. It's a lot more uneven ground. But at least it's not particularly boggy. I mean, I'm again a bit worried how parched it is for April. This doesn't feel quite right. It ought to be boggy, really, but at least my feet aren't getting wet. I suppose this is feeling a bit more like Dartmoor now, isn't it? This is more like open moorland. Quite a long way from the patchwork quilt. Oh wow, stags. Now this is why I have a optical zoom on my phone for moments like this. I think I briefly said stags back there, but they are in fact female deer, surely. What's the word I'm looking for? Isn't that majestic? One in a line over there. Were it not for the optical zoom on my phone, there would just be a couple of pixels each. I have my first glimpse of the sea beyond that next line of hills. Those deer just too far away to be visible now. Well, maybe with some digital zooming after the fact, you might be looking right now at some horribly pixelated, very small deer. It's not the easiest of tracks to follow, this one. Can you make that out in the video? I can just about see the line of it. It's a little bit more trodden down, or what's the word I'm looking for? You know, it looks like somebody has driven a quad bike or something along here at some point. Presumably the farmer uses this to round up his sheep. What a different scenery this is. Oh, there's the deer over there again. Looking at me. What different, there is at least one stag there, isn't there? What different scenery this has made compared to the southern bits of Exmoor. This really does feel like proper moorland, proper bleak, desolate moorland. I almost miss the sort of England's green and pleasant land bits at the start, that wooded valley and the farmland and everything. But it wouldn't really feel like a moorland expedition without seeing at least a bit of this kind of thing. Shall I see if I can zoom in on those? There they go. If this were allotment fox now, there'd be some dramatic drumbeaty music playing over the top of this, but instead you've just got to put up with my droning on while you look at some pixelated deer running off in the distance over this bleak moorland. Terrible map graphics time. Oh, it's flickering and everything. According to the map, I should just turn off this track here, and the stone setting, whatever that actually is, ought to be in amongst all of that stuff. Well, I've come this far, might as well take a look, see what I can find in amongst all this lot. I'm guessing there isn't going to be much to see. I don't know, what is a stone setting? Of a cluster of stones believed to have been put there by people, presumably, but not in a circular formation, not a cairn. Terrible map graphics. Well, according to the map, if you believe my location being accurate, I ought to be standing on top of it right now. I can't really make much out. The shape of the land is slightly different from how it is elsewhere, but I can't see any projecting stones. Perhaps is it all just grown over? Some of these tussocks hiding rocks that have been here for millennia. I don't know about you, but I can't see anything here. If you could somehow spot something, the very unlikely event that you're able to spot something on video that I missed, doesn't seem likely, does it? And maybe it is just buried by all this this grass, all these tussocks, whatever it was. Some pile of boulders that were put here for some purpose. I'm just assuming everything is Bronze Age on Exmoor. I don't know. There did seem to be that track, I mean that probably isn't that old, that's probably a modern farmer's track, but that did seem to lead quite purposefully from Alderman's Barrow back there to this spot, because here it then takes a sharp turn and actually more or less heads towards the stone circle. It seems very unlikely that that track could be of sufficient antiquity that it would have originally linked all of those up. Nice bit of drama here. The landscape drops off to one side. A little valley down there, I think. Isn't this nice? A little valley on the moor. And the OS map says there is a ford down here. Nicely marked track. I'm pretty sure I'm going the right way. Hopefully this isn't going to be that doesn't look too challenging, does it? Not too difficult to cross that, I think. It's looking lovely, the sunlight glistening on the water. Well, it is back there, maybe not in this direction. Good afternoon, ladies. No need to run away. More modest antiquities to enjoy here. These are marked simply as stones on the OS map. There's one there. I don't know if you can see off in the distance. There is another one. Perhaps I'll take a look at that in a moment. Let's look at this one first. I wonder if that could be more modern, possibly a boundary stone of some sort. Something about the rubble underneath makes me think it's more modern. I don't know why. Should we take a quick look at the other one? It's a bit of a diversion. One little stone there. These are almost, to me, arranged in an avenue. There are stone avenues identified on Exmoor. I don't think we're going to be seeing any on this trip, sorry. And that is the second of the more major stones as marked on this little cluster on the OS map. I hope you can hear me with the wind. There we go. Just wonder if my phone will do a better job. I am shooting into the sun a bit here, aren't I? Probably all in silhouette, isn't it? Another ford approaching, another little valley. Not moving very fast, this particular stream, is it? Hopefully this will be another easy one to traverse. Doesn't look too deep, does it? It'll be all right. And back up again. Really pretty, these valleys. This is quite Dartmoor-esque, isn't it? The way those lone trees hug the banks of the stream. Are they hawthorn? Can't tell from here. And this we're coming up to now, surrounded by sheep. is Porlock Stone Circle. I can see a couple of stones from here already. I think I'm going to set my bag down and have a little sit, and we'll get a proper look at it, hopefully. Here we go then, Porlock Stone Circle. I'll take you on a tour of all the stones. There is a relatively large one here lying recumbent. It is apparently a bit difficult at this particular stone circle to pick out the ones that were originally here from, it's believed to date to the Bronze Age, versus some that may have been added as recently as the last 100 years or so. It was only rediscovered in the 1920s, so this is even more recently known about than the Withypool Stone Circle, which I think was late 1800s, wasn't it? It was 1898. Again, it is believed that the reason that the stone circles on Exmoor are so diminutive is just simply the availability of local rock. Unlike Dartmoor, we don't have those big lumps of granite. Although, as I may have said yesterday, I noticed in the stream beds there were some pretty sizable boulders, but perhaps the people of Exmoor in the Bronze Age were pragmatic and didn't want to lug those out of the valleys and bring them all the way up to the tops of the hills. It's interesting to me how little known about these stone circles seem to be. There are only, as I say, 2 stone circles known about on Exmoor. And talking to some local people, those 2 equestrian ladies yesterday that I met again at the Tarr farm in Tarr Steps, when I mentioned I was going to Withypool Stone Circle, they seemed none the wiser that there even was one. And similarly, the chap who ran the tea room in Exford, I said I was going to Porlock Stone Circle, and that was news to him. So they're really not known about even by people on Exmoor, and it's probably because they're just not very grand and imposing. They are very small in stature, but very likely put here in the Bronze Age, and you know, in the same tradition that we see those stone circles on Dartmoor that are talked about much more, just a bit smaller here because of the size of the local stones available. They're also right next to a road, so they're pretty easy to visit. There is a gate just down there. Presumably there's somewhere you can park your car along the road there if you're not staying for very long. So surprising it is not better known, but it's nonetheless charming for it. The fact that I have this place all to myself, and I imagine I could sit here for hours and I wouldn't be disturbed by anyone but sheep. Well, I enjoyed my visit to Porlock Stone Circle. It's not, as the name suggests, actually particularly close to Porlock. I suppose there just aren't any other landmarks near here to name it after. And as I said, it was discovered in the 1920s, rediscovered in the 1920s. So I am on the home straight, but still a decent amount of walking to do, about 3.5 miles, 5.7 kilometres is that according to Ordnance Survey maps. Hopefully relatively easy walking from here. I'm feeling sometimes I say that and it turns out not to be. But there is a footpath that eventually goes into the woods and then down the hills towards Porlock. I think it's all pretty much downhill from here. I obviously jinxed it by saying this would be an easy route because I'm on a really nondescript supposed footpath across this bit of moorland, but I keep losing the path. I don't know if I'm walking on a sheep track or pony track or an actual proper path. It's all open access land, so in terms of, I'm not trespassing or anything, but not a particularly easy line to follow. There are bits like this when I think surely this is a proper path, and then it just sort of peters out and left trying to trample through the gorse and heather. Can you even hear me? Probably too windy. Another view down to the sea. Now I can see across to the other side of the Bristol Channel even. It's a bit hazy, but is that some sort of power plant or something over there? Found my way onto this track. Perhaps this was what I was supposed to be following all along. I don't know. It didn't look like it on the map. But anyway, the footpath I think crosses, wow, all the way over there, over that fence. And the next bit beyond the fence is not open access land, so I'll have to stick to the path more carefully. Sorry about the wind noise here, but nice views from this spot. As noted just now, you can see down to the sea, the Bristol Channel over there. The caravans parked in various, camper vans, something parked in various places over there. And I will follow the fence now and find the footpath down there. This is where the footpath crosses over. It does look like a proper path there, doesn't it? From where I've just come from. I don't know what I did wrong there. Perhaps it's not quite marked in the correct location on the OS map. Oh well, I'm here now. Slightly concerned by that signpost there saying an alternative route avoids fields. What exactly are we avoiding here? I can't see any bowls or anything, and surely if there were any such ruminants, there would be a proper fence here. So I'm sure this is fine. Just going to tramp across here, following the footpath. Lovely bit of scenery here. Rolling hills, then the sea beyond. It's back to feeling more like farmed land now as we get closer to the coast, rather than that wild moorland bit I've just come from. But it's still nice in its own way. Bit of a shame about the JCB slightly spoiling the view, but hope you'll agree that's quite majestic. Those rolling hills, my feet hurt. Shut up, Tweedy. I've reached the end of the avoiding fields segment, where I could have avoided the fields. I think for the remainder of the walk, I'm following this wooded valley to Porlock. It still looks like a long way. I can't see any immediate signs of habitation. There's some buildings way off in the distance there. My feet are definitely hurting now. 2:10. Still probably almost an hour until I get to Porlock. I've decided to give myself a break for a bit, sitting on this bank. I'm going to have whatever that is. I just picked these up in the Morrison's in Taunton on the way here. Peanuts and dark chocolate. I hope they're in a decent condition, having been thrown around in my bag for the last 24 hours or so. Nice spot here. Gorse bushes. You can actually see the moon up above the gorse bushes. I don't know if that's coming out on camera. Bumblebee over there, collecting the nectar from that gorse bush. Across the valley there, I can see a car park on the A39 where people have stopped to enjoy the view. I suppose they're looking at a similar view to what I'm looking, but in reverse. I think that's at the top of the famous Porlock Hill. It's one of the steepest roads in England, isn't it? Or at least in southern England. Enjoyed that little sitting spot there. A bit reluctant to get back up and start moving again. Shoulders hurting, feet hurting. It was nice to have a break, drank some water, ate those peanut and chocolate bars. They were surprisingly in good shape. You'd have thought the chocolate would have melted and it would have all broken into bits, but surprisingly intact. They probably anticipate being bashed about in someone's backpack. Still 2 miles to Porlock. Oh no. I don't think this section of woodland is officially designated as temperate rainforest, but it's practically adjacent to 2 other areas of wood. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I recall they were close to Porlock. And you can see more of those tree ferns, and in fact, is that even a bit of blueberry, wimberry, bilberry, wild blueberry type bush growing out of the moss from the trunk of that. Actually, that's probably now a dead tree, isn't it? Another stream to ford here. Hopefully not too deep. I'm not sure my boots are particularly waterproof anymore. It's still saying 2 miles to Porlock. But at least it looks like from here on there is a nice flat path which just runs along the side of the stream here. Again, don't know the name of this stream. I don't think it's very long. It starts, looking at the map, just a little bit up the valley there. Another ford, not particularly deep, is it? Just splash through there. Hopefully, every time I say, oh, it's going to be easy walking from here, usually for some reason it isn't. But perhaps this time, finally, some easy walking. Very vivid green from whatever that waterside plant is there. This is a very picturesque woodland / valley walk, but I'm ready for it to be over now. I just want to get to Porlock, take off my boots, maybe have a shower and go and sit in the pub. Finally, signs of habitation. I guess I must be entering Porlock, or perhaps there's some other little settlement before I get to Porlock. It can't be far now, surely. Yes, there is a small settlement between where I was back there and Porlock. It's called Hawkridge, which I think was also the name of that valley I was walking down. So I don't know if that stream is the Hawk stream, possibly. Lovely bit of blossom there. I'm not actually sure what that is. Something in the Prunus family. Big flowers though. Not quite sure where Combe finished and Porlock starts, but I feel like I must be in Porlock now. Hopefully not much further to the pub where I'm staying, and hopefully it's a good time to check in. Unusual church here in Porlock. Unusual spire to that. Nice bit of thatch over there. In fact, it looks like that was an old pub, says the old Rose and Crown there, but I can see my pub over there, the castle. Well, this is a bit sublime to the ridiculous, isn't it? I just booked the cheapest room that was available here at the Castle Hotel, and somehow I've ended up in a room with a four-poster bed and a sort of corner, almost like a turret. I think there is a turret, wasn't there, on the outside of this building? It was 85 quid. I didn't think I was being particularly extravagant with that. Brilliant. Well, really sublime to the ridiculous, considering last night I slept in an ultralight tent on a windy hilltop. Tonight, a four-poster bed with, can you see there's even, is that chinoiserie or is it japanning on the headboard there? That's brilliant. I think in total I walked for 11 hours to get from Dulverton all the way here to Porlock. Just over 4 hours of that yesterday, and I was surprisingly tired yesterday after not much more than 4 hours walking, and pretty much 7 hours of walking today. I started at just before 7 a.m, didn't finish until 3:30. I suppose I did stop for quite a while for breakfast and a little bit of time for that snack for lunch and a bit of time at Porlock Stone Circle, but pretty much 7 hours today, 4 hours yesterday, and the total only came to just shy of 23 miles. I don't know if anyone needs these numbers in kilometres, but that means definitely didn't do 3 miles an hour. It was averaging slightly over 2 miles an hour because it was just difficult terrain. It was always up and down, and even the supposedly easy bits like that wooded valley at the start had all those obstacles to overcome. So it was quite a challenging walk. It's been interesting. I slightly wish I'd perhaps planned something a little bit easier, but as I said probably at the start, it was largely dictated by the availability of public transport. As far as I can tell, there isn't a bus that really goes any further into Exmoor than to Dulverton, or perhaps there is very occasionally, but certainly heading out on a Saturday as I was, I couldn't see any better options than getting to Dulverton to start. And once you're heading into the moor, you've really got to cross it to get a bus from the other end, because it's only here at Porlock was the first village, I think, of all the villages I passed through that actually has a bus service, as far as I could tell. Perhaps I did my planning wrong, I don't know, but it seemed like that was the only way to do it. So I have crossed the whole moor from south to north in that direction. Obviously it would be a longer walk if you went east to west. It's sort of wider than it is high if you look at it on the map. It's been a varied set of landscapes, hasn't it? From the wooded valleys at the start to the farmland in the middle to eventually changing into more like open moorland. I think we saw most of that, a little bit of that at the end of yesterday and most of it today, and it exists in pockets. To me, it doesn't feel quite as wild as Dartmoor, at least not the bits I saw. Perhaps if I'd got to other parts of Exmoor, it might have felt a bit more wild. But it's been nice. It's been nice. I liked actually the way that it was interleaved with villages, because I really appreciated the pub stop yesterday and the breakfast stop today, and then, you know, having Porlock at the end. So I will now go and do a quick tour of the pubs of Porlock. I'm not quite sure yet whether I'm going to tack that on the end of this video or turn that into a mini Tweedy Pubs video. I'm particularly keen to see the ship. So if that is the end of this video, then what a bizarre outro this is. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.